everyone, this is Scott Baradell with MarTech Talk, and today we're going to be talking about customer loyalty marketing. And I can't think of any company that's more of an authority on this space than Brierley+Partners. Been around since the mid-'80s, and some of the most iconic and long-lasting loyalty programs in the country are a product of their imaginations. And we have, for over 17 years, Bill Swift has been the CTO, and he's Executive Vice President of Brierley. And we're very excited to have you to chat with today. Hi, Bill.
Hi, thank you, Scott. Nice to be here.
Great. Well, I tell you what, from my standpoint in the PR agency space, one of the hottest topics in PR and marketing has been for the last couple of years, customer advocacy, and how important customer advocacy is today, because, these days, people are doing their research online in deciding who they want to buy from, whether it's B2C or B2B. And in many cases, they're not going to your website to find out about you. They're looking at online reviews, and they're going to other places to see what your customers say about you. And to create customer advocates, which increasingly are the engine of growth for companies, you first have to build loyal customers. And Brierley obviously has been at the forefront of customer loyalty for many years. And maybe before we talk about where all of this is going, we can talk a little bit about kind of how it started. So, Bill, can you just kind of share the origin story of Brierley and kind of where you guys started and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Sure. The company was founded by Hal Brierley, and Hal was a consultant at American Airlines in the mid-'80s to help one of the external consultants that helped design the Advantage program. And so soon after that, he started Brierley+Partners. And in the very beginning, back then especially, it was a consultancy that was purely focused on program design, marketing strategy, and really the consultative aspect of what should the program look like and how should it operate. And even in the early days back then, he acquired a creative agency in LA, understanding the importance of how do you bring these things to life and how do you communicate to the customer base on the value proposition and reason you should join such a program. So it kind of started back then, and for quite a while it operated in that space. When I started in early 2000, 2001, the company really didn't have much execution in terms of technology and platform capability. So Hal, really rightly so back then, saw that there was an opportunity to not only design these programs, but to run them over time. And we have had some clients now that have been clients of ours for over 25 years. And in the program design and the consultative aspect of the evolution of the program is a cyclical evolution. Any successful loyalty program actually has to evolve over time. So the strategic aspect of that is still really important. But as a company, the operational aspect, the technology platform, the analytics that go on top of these programs to make sure that they're returning the investment that our clients expect, and how to really gather insights from the data to educate on where the program should go next has been the focus of our evolution since I started across technology and analytics.
And you mentioned some very long-standing customers. What are some of the brands that have been with you the longest?
Hertz was probably the longest, and started with a program design exercise with focus groups and listening to the customer and what they really wanted from the program. And back then, is actually, people didn't necessarily want points and rewards. And so as we get into kind of where we are currently in the future, it really isn't about points and rewards. It's about and even back then it was about customer experience and trying in the very early variations of that program really focused on getting people in their car quicker so they didn't have to wait in line. And it was really around the customer experience. They introduced points and rewards later. So that's become part of the holistic solution there. But
do you think that in the race to have points and rewards and things like that some companies maybe forget about the idea that it being part of kind of the customer experience being enhanced, being its own reward? That's what I think of when I think of the Hertz program, more than the number of points you get. It's how they show appreciation for loyal customers. Do you feel like sometimes companies lose sight of that? What?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I'm certainly not the strategy guy, but you can say that core value proposition around if I do this, I get that is kind of table stakes. But it's really how do you make the customer feel, the emotional connection they get with the brand, is their experience with the brand smoother? Are they recognized differently? There's personalization aspects that flow into that. We talk about voice of the customer and getting feedback from the customer. It's actually paying attention to those responses that you get and treating those people differently based on the way they responded. So our strategy team, for example, will have focus groups, and many of the people in the room don't even remember how many points they get for what types of activities, but they always remember if it makes them feel differently. And it kind of, some of that bleeds into some of that was there in the origins and even early programs like Hertz, but the customer experience and the engagement component of that, the communication strategy that goes with these programs, the personalization, they're all part of our current core capabilities, but they continue to be really important as you drive any program forward and into the future.
Mm-hmm. How have things changed over the last few years with the impact of social media, chat, this, customers, every customer, not just the premium customers or customers in a loyalty program, expect instant answers and instant satisfaction when they have a problem now, or they'll blast it all over social media that you screwed up. How does Brierley adapted to or changed with that world, and how do you help your customers to address a universe where everyone is giving instantaneous feedback and wanting instantaneous results?
The instant gratification aspect of that there's no doubt. Everyone expects everything to be in real time, whether it's a complaint or on the positive side of that, if they've elevated into a different tier status, or they've unlocked rewards or completed a challenge that they get rewarded for. The consumer base and customers in general expect everything to be immediate. And we started that journey many years ago with some of our programs were the first, I think, to have that real-time, hardcore kind of real-time integration in the stores and with e-com. And not just transaction processing and points, but in terms of triggering communications, if people are triggering customer satisfaction surveys, in fact, and if they answered those a certain way that to help facilitate an immediate response from our clients. Mm-hmm. So the real-time aspect of that will just continue to proliferate. In terms of social, we had some early success with social listening integration, and people would get points for that activity across Instagram and Twitter and other channels. But we would treat advocates differently. And based on cloud score and other inputs that you can get from those social channels, they become attributes within our system. So if they are an advocate of the brand and they have either a positive story or a complaint, we can route them differently and treat them differently, and our rules can actually trigger differently based on those characteristics of that customer's profile.
So you're factoring in not only, or you could factor in not only that someone's a customer advocate, but that they have more social media influence than another customer, and that could factor in to the equation as well. Is it, it's kind of like, where does the customer advocacy end and influencer marketing begin in a way?
Yeah, we still obviously have the traditional segmentation and predictive models to treat people differently in terms of those broad groupings. But the advocacy and across and social input and the clients that do have the rewarding for social, it's just another way that we can append that classification to those members' profiles at a very individual basis. This individual member is maybe have this many followers in a certain social channel versus broader segmentation that was historical prior to that.
Right. We talked a little bit about your offering. Can you kind of, for those unfamiliar with your solutions, can you talk about broadly what Brierley offers to its clients?
Sure. Our platform is called Loyalty on Demand. So that's our core kind of product offering. We become essentially the system of record for membership or programs. You don't have to have points, by the way. It's at a kind of a macro level, we're tracking customer behavior, which could be purchase behavior, it could be engagement behavior, it can really be anything. And we have a rules engine that's monitoring that customer behavior and depositing scores and credits and points and miles and a currency essentially into each individual member's account. And again, they don't have to be points, but quite often then that currency that's being accrued triggers rewards or things that they've earned or benefits. It could be badges or tier levels. Without points, you can trigger rewards, which could be coupon discount-based rewards. They could be rewards that the customer selects from a catalog, experiential rewards. It could be a trip. So kind of at a macro level, if you think about customer profile, they're opting into something. It's different than what I would call traditional database marketing. There is a program, if you will, that they're joining, or a club, and they're agreeing for us to track that activity so they ultimately can get something. But so that's what really our platform is all about. And I think if you look at loyalty, and one thing that we've always done is loyalty is part of a broader ecosystem of marketing technology and delivery, and it's really a subset of broader CRM initiatives. And so when we look at any of our clients or prospects, we don't just look at it from a loyalty perspective, but if you think about programs that we all participate in, there's certainly a communication strategy that comes with it. There's campaign execution. Our customers all have members and non-members. They have integration in the stores. We have some clients that have 30,000 stores, so lots of systems integration. There's e-com at play. There's call center activity, mobile app. So there's a lot of different channels that loyalty is delivered through. And so that's a big part of our core offering, is to not only house these big databases that have a lot of customer information and transactional and engagement information that trigger communications, but we expose that through a wide array of systems integration techniques, including APIs, but include that so that information can be leveraged at all of those touch point systems that our clients or their partners own. So as a company, think about, we own the core engine, obviously, the databases that behind that. We host it, we support it. Our contracts have pretty stringent SLAs in terms of uptime. And back to your change question, one thing that certainly changed is loyalty is a mission critical system. And you know, and some of our clients, as much as 90% of their transactions are loyalty transactions. So if that, you know, it's become 24/7 mission critical. And if something, if there's a bump in the road, it's all hands on deck. So it's, but that's what we do as a company. That's what our kind of our product offering looks like, and what we do from a tech perspective.
How does loyalty on demand fit? Would you say it's part of a, let's say you have an enterprise client, it's part of their MarTech stack?
We have a reference architecture diagram that we use quite often that's kind of a more complete view of marketing in general.
Yeah.
Think about display ads and ad tech space and CRM, campaign execution, analytics, member, non-member. There's delivery channels, email, push, text, direct mail, the call center, telemarketing. There's kind of you know, we've all seen those MarTech
right.
roadmaps, if you will. Some of them look like a subway map with
right.
technologies and partners and people that contribute. So with any loyalty implementation, a lot of those things really come into play. And so the loyalty engine does become, to answer your question, a subset of that. And the integration and that how does it fit with everything else is one thing that I think we're really good at. We have a group of solution architects that a loyalty conversation may start out fairly simplistically in terms of tracking sales and issuing rewards, but it has to be connected with the rest of that ecosystem. And our clients already have partners, and they already have databases, and in fact, most of the time, they already have a loyalty program. So there's competitors in the mix or internal systems, and loyalty has to, again, kind of fit in with all that, and there has to be a roadmap and a lot of project management and coordination to kind of bring it all together.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's is there a size, a company in terms of employees, revenues, number of customers at which that's kind of the baseline where your solution is a fit for them?
Yeah, for sure. Historically, we've focused on enterprise, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 global companies. We have some more recent clients that are much, much smaller than that. And from a product perspective, we're going to continue to do both.
Mm-hmm. How do you serve a smaller, what would be a smaller client? Most of our clients are mid-market, for example, and I'm curious what you do for, say, a mid-market client, how you serve them versus, say, Fortune 100.
Yeah, the smaller clients with and their smaller marketing budgets that go with it, it's we really try to focus on the core aspects of our solution that are configurable. And so that's really the difference for us. We have enterprise clients that have a lot of very unique needs, and systems integration with extraneous partners, and sometimes we have to augment our core platform to satisfy that. So our lower level mid-market kind of clients, as long as their program design is configurable within our platform, then we can address those needs. But as a company, we'll continue to kind of drive both ends of that spectrum.
Let me just give you a mid-market scenario to just that might be common for the kind of companies that we work with, or that might be reading or watching this, reading our blog or watching this. Let's say you're a company that's a $50 million, $100 million company. You on Salesforce, you've got a significant sales team using that as your CRM. You might have HubSpot or Marketo as a marketing automation platform. How does Brierley's offering? Is there a fit there for Brierley? And if so, how does it kind of fit into the other things?
Yeah, there is, and we can spin up an instance of our platform in the cloud very quickly, and we can configure most what you would think of as traditional kind of loyalty artifacts and components in terms of transaction processing and enrollment and rewards issuance very quickly. So we can absolutely compete and be competent in that lower market.
Since you mentioned enterprise and mid-market, I know that in your role, in addition to being as part of your CTO role, you are looking at product direction, which is tied obviously very directly to technology direction. Where do you see this space going over the next 3 to 5 years? How is Brierley going to evolve? And if I could also throw in another component of that, I'm curious if that's going to be different in terms of how you evolve towards the mid-market versus the enterprise clients that you serve.
Yeah, our product roadmap has elements on that further enhance our global capabilities in terms of global clients that have, and with data privacy regulations and the architecture of our product is actually changing and evolving to support those massive enterprise clients where they need to keep PII data, for example, in region, but offer a global program. And I could live in the States and go shop in Europe, and my experience would be the same, but the deployment is distributed around the world. So our product roadmap has, from one extreme, those types of clients, all the way down to what we call loyalty as a service, which is spin it up for a much smaller client and let them configure the platform and operate it and run it over time. So we do have elements of both ends of the spectrum on the roadmap and currently in progress. Probably the more innovative kind of evolutionary things that we see happening is we had early facial recognition capabilities through some partners that we actually demonstrated at the IoT conference in Barcelona 2 years ago. And now we see that more mainstream, and so it's really kind of catching on. But just in terms of customer identity and catching people in the store before they shop and putting not just loyalty offers and opportunities in front of them, but opting in, appending your profile with your photo and opting into that enhanced experience in the store, for example, where we could potentially influence shopping before it's checkout time and redemption and accrual happens. So kind of influencing that behavior. But we were early in that, and I think the market is ready for that now for sure. It's everywhere. We have programs right now that have AR experiences embedded in the app, and you get points for engaging in the store and going on a little bit of a scavenger hunt to uncover, surprises, if you will, when you get to the end, and you get credit and you get currency, and it's another form of engagement. But we have that currently, but we see that continuing. Loyalty always has these innovative channels that kind of come around it that help make that customer experience better. Mm-hmm. For us, a lot of times they become integration points. We're not building AR experiences, but we can help personalize it. We know a lot about the customers, our clients' customers, and we know what their preferences are. We know everything they purchased, probably, in some cases for the last 15 or 20 years. So we have opportunity to drive recommendations and to make those experiences across those kind of more bleeding edge channels around facial and AR and VR and virtual assistances and speaking to Alexa, for example, about, I'd love to, putting something in my wish list and I want to use my points to pay for it. And just helping kind of enable those channels on the periphery to be smarter and more personal. And loyalty, even if there aren't any points, the foundation of loyalty helps make those experiences more personal because you've locked in uniquely on individual customers, and you can engage with them at those touch points in a more meaningful way.
You mentioned Alexa. Have you helped your customers like build Alexa skills or apps for Alexa to this point?
I mean, a lot of times our clients are kind of thinking of that themselves, and so there's a lot of times there's a broader use case that's not just I want to use my points to pay for something. So we've become part of the part of their user stories and their use cases to kind of roll it out in a more holistic way. So yeah, we take those examples to our clients, but then they typically step back a little bit and say, well, we don't want to go to market with just that. They start to think more about e-com and the potential how loyalty is part of it. Loyalty is part of the experience. It's not the experience.
Well, it's amazing to think about how fast things are changing and how Brierley has the pace of change, not just changes, but the pace of change in recent years, and how you guys have stayed abreast of it and stayed on top of it. And you're in an exciting role to be guiding the technology and the product direction. So we look forward to seeing what comes next. And Bill, thanks so much for taking the time to share some of your knowledge with us today.
Yeah, thank you. It was good. It was fun. Thanks.
Take care.